The Oath returns. Roran Vexley had always preferred machines over people. Machines didn't lie. They didn't judge. They broke, sure, but they did it honestly. So when the sky above his junkyard split open like a wound and poured violet light over the cracked earth, his first reaction wasn't fear. It was irritation. He tossed his plasma wrench onto the bench, muttered a curse, and yanked down the visor from his forehead. The wind had stilled. Even the buzz of sand-stung cicadas had stopped. That wasn't natural. Then the ship appeared. Not fell. Not landed. Appeared, like it had been peeled into reality. Sleek and serpentine, its hull shimmered silver with glowing veins of amethyst. It didn't hum or roar, it exhaled. One long, ancient breath that made the hairs on his neck rise. Roran took a cautious step back. Steam hissed from a seam near its center. A ramp unfolded with such precise grace it felt choreographed. Then she stepped out. Not human. Not pretending to be. Violet skin, dark and radiant like storm-lit stone. Silver-white hair coiled in ceremonial braids. And eyes, cat-slit, golden, and devastatingly calm. Roran Vexley, she said, and her voice was music through static. He blinked. Do I know you? You knew me before your first scar. Her hand moved, and a case unfolded in her palm. Holographic glyphs spun into the air, dancing between them. Among the shifting images, a boy, dirt-smeared and bleeding, shielding a smaller violet child from a collapsing shuttle. You saved me, she said. You swore an oath. Roran stared. Pieces of memory surfaced like wreckage from a flood. Her face, smaller, rounder, terrified. Soldiers. Gunfire. A shard of glowing metal. His voice. I won't let them take you. You didn't sign, she said gently. You swore. Under the moons. Under witness. That was wartime, he said hoarsely. I was 12. Even children speak truths deeper than laws. He shook his head. So what, you came across space because a kid made a promise? Because you were the first human who saw me as more than a threat, she stepped closer. And because the oath seal matured. I didn't agree to anything. Not with your mind. But your blood remembers. She held out her hand. Not touching. Offering. What's your name, he asked. Shirani of House Nather. Bloodbound. Keeper of the Echo Right. And according to your records, you're promised. He laughed, dry, disbelieving. You practiced that line. I've dreamed of this moment for 19 Earth years. Silence stretched between them. Then she knelt, not in submission, but in reverence, and placed the case between them. What is it you fear? That this is real. It is. Roran sat down heavily on the bench. Looked at her. At the glowing glyphs. At the sand. At the ship. Then, finally, at her hand. He placed his palm against hers. Not commitment. Not surrender. But beginning. The ship pulsed the moment they stepped inside. Heat lifted from the floor in soft waves. The walls curved, seamless and silver, with veins of violet light crawling like gentle lightning. The air wasn't air, it was charged, like breath in a storm. Shirani walked barefoot. Her golden ribbons shifted around her body, reacting to the temperature, coiling tighter with each step. Her presence filled the space without effort. She guided him to a circular chamber. A pedestal rose silently from the floor. She placed the oath case upon it. This is the vessel's heart, she said. Where resonance begins. Roran folded his arms. You keep saying resonance. Like I'm supposed to know what that means. You're not a tuning fork, she said. You're a fuse. He raised an eyebrow. That's supposed to be a compliment. Depends how easily you ignite. He didn't blush, but the air felt hotter. Or maybe it was the way her eyes flicked down his chest. Strip, she said. His mouth opened. Seriously. No barriers. Not for pleasure. For precision. She turned, giving him space. He hesitated, then stripped. Shirt. Pants. Boots. Scars visible. Skin bare. Nothing left to hide. When he was done, she turned. She didn't leer. She inhaled. You still carry the shard, she murmured. Her hand hovered over his chest. A flicker of gold light shimmered beneath his skin. What the hell? The oath seal. Placed when you gave me blood and name. He thought it was a scar. She said it was sacred. Her hands met over his heart. I will initiate resonance. He nodded. Do it. Light surged. Their feet lifted. Not floating. Unanchored. He could feel her heartbeat. Not through her hand, inside his chest. Her emotions bled into him, grief, longing, desire, not carnal, but whole. Presence. Need. Breathe with me, she whispered. They did. A hum rose from the ship. The pedestal vanished. The floor rippled. A platform lifted beneath them, forcing their bodies closer. Her hands moved to his jaw. His skin tingled under her touch. Their foreheads met. A jolt. Memories not his own, her childhood. A temple of glass. The wars. The waiting. His name whispered like a prayer. I feel your flame, she whispered. She guided his hand to her chest. A golden glow pulsed beneath her skin. Matched, she said. A single tear fell. It shimmered. The room dimmed. The platform lowered. Their skin touched in only 2 places. You passed the first trial. He swallowed. Nodded. Do you wish to continue? What's next? Shared immersion. Physical compatibility. Real contact. He blinked. Understanding, she said. Not mating. Yet. He exhaled. You always this direct? I've waited 19 years to see if you were real. She leaned in. Her lips brushed his cheek. Not a kiss. A beginning. The temple of skin and memory. Roran stood still for a long time after the kiss that wasn't. The touch of her lips on his cheek lingered in his nerves like the ghost of a storm, electric and heavy with meaning. Shirani said nothing as she turned, her movements graceful, leading him down a narrow corridor lined with breathing metal and lights that pulsed like distant heartbeats. We begin the second phase, she said softly, not looking back. It's called the Temple of Skin and Memory. Sounds dramatic. It's sacred. Of course it is. Roran didn't mock her, though. He didn't laugh. Because deep down, in the marrow where logic broke down and old promises whispered, something about this felt real. Necessary. As they walked, the ship shifted subtly around them. No doors opened, but paths formed. Walls bent. Ceilings arched to let them pass. It was alive, or near enough to fool the senses. Everything pulsed with a harmony he could not hear but could feel vibrating beneath his feet. When they arrived at the chamber, he paused at the threshold. It wasn't like the heart room. This place was dimmer. Quieter. And warmer. The floor was soft beneath his soles, like memory foam woven with silk. The walls rippled in response to his breath. Remove fear, Shirani said, standing in the center. She had shed her outer ceremonial ribbons. Now, she wore only a tight-fitting bodysuit of shifting gold-threaded fabric that left little to imagination, but somehow remained dignified. Royal. Powerful. I'm not afraid, Roran said. You are, she replied. But that's expected. He stepped in. A low chime rang out as he crossed the threshold. The air thickened. What happens now? She turned, her gold eyes glowing slightly in the low light. We allow our bodies to remember what the mind resists. The flame is not just soul, it is breath, heat, memory, rhythm. She approached slowly. He felt the change in pressure as she neared, like the gravity in the room had shifted. If we are to continue, she said, you must allow me to read you. Read me. She nodded. Through contact. Not carnal. Not yet. Contact of memory. The skin holds more than scars. He inhaled. All right. She raised both hands, hovering them just above his chest. Not touching. Waiting. He gave a small nod. Her palms settled lightly against him. Heat bloomed. Images rose in his mind again, unbidden. Not hers this time, his. Childhood. His mother's smile. The first time he held a tool. The night he saw the stars through a broken ceiling panel and knew he would never be content with just Earth. Shirani gasped. Her eyes fluttered shut. You dreamed of escape even as a child, she whispered. You dreamed of being more than they allowed. He didn't answer. Couldn't. The emotion swelled too fast. Her hands moved slowly up his chest, fingertips grazing his shoulders, then down his arms. Each point of contact drew more memories forward, memories long buried, the time he broke a soldier's jaw defending a civilian. The feeling of first blood on his hands. The shame. The anger. You carry too much weight, she said. I carry what I earned. But it was never yours to bear. Her words weren't pity. They were truth. Then her hands stopped. One on his shoulder. One on the back of his neck. Now I will show you mine, she said. He nodded. She stepped closer until they were nearly touching. Forehead to forehead. The second resonance began. He saw a vast palace of violet stone, its spires glowing beneath twin moons. A girl, her, dancing in a hall, barefoot, laughing. A sudden scream. Fire on the horizon. Her mother, cloaked in white, dying in her arms. The escape. The crash. Him. You were the first human I touched, she said into the stillness. You didn't recoil. You were bleeding. I had to help. You didn't have to. You chose to. He opened his eyes. And now, he asked. She stepped back, but not far. Now we see if our rhythms align. She guided him to lie down on a low platform that rose from the floor. She sat beside him, then placed her hand to his temple. Hers was the only voice in the chamber, but the ship responded like a choir. Breathe with me. They did. Their breaths fell into a matching cadence. Their heartbeats found a rhythm. The temperature of the room adjusted, tuned to the harmony. A pulse of light surged across the ceiling, then down the walls. Roran felt something click inside him, not mechanical, but emotional. Spiritual. He looked at her again. Not as an alien. Not even as a woman. But as the person who had carried his name across galaxies. I don't know what this makes me, he said. It makes you mine, she said softly. If you choose it. He reached out. And this time, it was him who initiated the touch. Skin to skin. Memory to memory. Flame to flame. And the ship trembled with joy. Later, in the darkened quiet of the chamber, Shirani lay beside him. Their hands still touching, palm to palm. The second trial is past, she whispered. What comes next? Alignment. Sounds harder. It is. He turned his head to face her. Will we pass it? She gave him the smallest smile. We already are. Trial of alignment. The next morning, Roran woke before Shirani. He didn't know how he could tell time inside a ship that had no clocks, no windows, and no night or day, but something about the shift in air, the subtle dimming of the wall's ambient glow, told him it was morning. He sat up slowly, careful not to wake her. She lay beside him with one arm curled under her head, golden patterns from her bodysuit gently dimmed to match the quiet energy of the room. She looked younger like this. Softer. Not the regal warrior priestess who had arrived in a glowing vessel, but the girl he once shielded beneath a wrecked shuttle. He stood, dressing slowly. The platform beneath them reshaped into a resting alcove, retracting quietly without prompt. The ship responded to thoughts now. Or maybe it always had. As he moved toward the corridor, the air rippled. You do not have to walk the next phase alone, Shirani said, her voice still thick with sleep. He turned to find her already rising, her golden eyes half-lidded but alert. Wasn't trying to escape. I would know if you were, she replied, standing with effortless grace. He studied her. How? Your resonance would fracture. Your light would dim. He snorted softly. So you're saying my soul would scream? loudly. She stepped forward and offered him her hand again. Without hesitation, he took it. The third trial, she said as they entered the new chamber, is the trial of alignment. This room was different, harsher, colder, metallic. The walls pulsed with blue instead of violet, and sharp geometric patterns slid beneath their feet. In the center stood a large crystalline obelisk that flickered with unreadable glyphs. 3 black doors surrounded the space, each marked by a single symbol: flame, blade, and mirror. "Let me guess," Roran said. "We get a choice." "Not quite." Shirani approached the obelisk and placed her hand on its surface. Immediately, the glyphs flared to life. Roran felt something inside him shift, like a tether pulling taut. The first door, marked by flame, slid open. "Flame means instinct," she said. "We start here." He followed her in. Inside, they were plunged into a shifting simulation of fire and ruins. The temperature rose sharply, smoke curling through charred architecture. "We must survive together," Shirani said. "Instinct will reveal our divide, or our bond." Immediately, they were under siege. A predator-like drone leaped from the smoke. Roran reacted on impulse, yanking a chunk of debris and slamming it into the drone's skull. Shirani fought beside him, her movements a dance of precision and grace. Together, they moved like water over stone, rough and smooth, reactive and synchronized. The trial lasted what felt like hours. More machines came. Fires spread. They adapted. When they finally stumbled out, covered in soot and drenched in sweat, the door sealed behind them. "You adapted well," Shirani said. "You didn't exactly slow me down, either." The second door, marked by blade, opened next. "This trial is moral alignment," she explained. "We will face choices, each more difficult than the last. What happens if we choose differently?" Then the resonance falters. They entered. The space shifted into an ethereal tribunal, where projected figures, some human, some alien, accused others of crimes, desertion, sabotage, betrayal. Each choice required judgment. Roran hesitated during one scenario: a young Nethra had disobeyed orders to save her bondmate. Under Netheran law, it was punishable by exile. "She saved a life," Roran said. "That matters." "But she disobeyed a sacred chain of command," Shirani countered. "She didn't betray the cause. She followed her heart." Shirani stared at him for a long moment. Then she turned to the projection. "Exemption recommended." The chamber chimed. The resonance held. They moved on. By the end, both were emotionally raw. "I didn't expect to agree with you so often," she said. "I didn't expect you to change your mind so easily." We both underestimated each other. The third door, mirror, was the hardest. It opened to a space of pure light. And then darkness. Each of them stood alone, faced with a version of the other, not as they were, but as feared. Roran faced a version of Shirani who looked cold, condescending, dismissive. "You were just a child," her illusion said. "You were nothing more than a symbol. I trained my whole life to own you." He didn't speak. Instead, he stepped forward. "If you were real," he said, "you wouldn't need to talk. You'd show me." The illusion flinched, then vanished. At the same time, Shirani faced a version of Roran who walked away. "You think I owe you something," the shade hissed. "You think one memory makes us fated. It doesn't. I'll always leave." Her hands trembled. But she breathed deeply, raised her chin, and whispered, "You never left me, not really." The false Roran evaporated. In the center of the light, they found each other again. "We passed?" he asked. "We survived." "That's better." Outside the trial room, the obelisk's light turned gold. "Alignment confirmed," the ship said, speaking aloud for the first time. Roran glanced at Shirani. "What now?" "Now we face the fourth trial, the heat of realignment." "Sounds intimate." She met his eyes. "It is." And for once, he didn't flinch. The heat of realignment. The ship changed the moment they crossed into the fourth chamber. The cool geometry of the alignment trials melted away into curves, organic, warm, and pulsing like breath. The walls shimmered not with electric light, but with a glow that reminded Roran of a hearth fire. It was comforting, disarming. Intimacy wasn't always about proximity. Sometimes it was space that allowed closeness to grow. This room, somehow, understood that. Shirani walked ahead of him, barefoot again, her long braids swaying down her back. The fabric she wore now was neither ceremonial nor battle-formed. It was something softer, looser, flowing like water over her shoulders and hips. Gold threads caught in the ambient light, giving her the appearance of someone forged, not born. Roran followed, stripped only of armor now. Not just physical armor, but emotional, the need to posture, to doubt, to hold onto the parts of himself that screamed caution. It had taken 3 trials to make space for trust. This one would test whether that trust could hold. This, Shirani said, pausing near a circular platform in the room's center, is the space of mutual immersion. The heat of realignment. It is the moment when shared potential becomes lived experience. Sounds ceremonial. It is not ceremony. It is consent, magnified. He stepped beside her. So what happens here? She looked at him, gaze level, unblinking. We make contact. True contact. Every scar, memory, breath, rhythm, together. No more projections. No more filtered resonance. You feel me. I feel you. Fully. Roran's throat tightened. He nodded. She moved first. Slowly, deliberately, she reached for the clips at her shoulders and let the fabric fall. No shame. No seduction. Only truth. Her body bore the record of her life, scars, lines, glowing tattoo runes of her house. Her hips and shoulders were broad, her posture proud, but there was softness too. The softness of survival, not weakness. You may look, she said gently, but only if you see. He did. And not once did his gaze drop in lust. He saw the small burn above her hip, a field wound. The faint stretch lines on her inner thighs, signs of rapid growth, possibly during stasis therapy. The circular mark near her collarbone, house insignia, likely painful. You carried these things across galaxies for me, he said. I carried them because I remembered your kindness. The galaxy gave me wounds. Your memory gave me reason to heal. He exhaled and peeled his shirt over his head. He unbuckled the belt, removed pants and boots, and stood as he was, flawed, human, weathered. I'm not beautiful like you, he muttered. Beauty is not symmetry, she said. It is resonance. And you burn bright to me. The platform beneath them shimmered and slowly lifted. A translucent membrane cocooned them, sealing them inside a breathable chamber that dimmed the outer world to a whisper. She stepped to him, one hand rising slowly. He mirrored the gesture. Their palms met. A pulse radiated from the contact, rushing through the chamber like heat lightning. They inhaled. Held breath. Exhaled. The room brightened. Their other hands joined. Then foreheads. Then chests. A low hum surged into a tone, harmonic and deep. Now, she whispered. And the real immersion began. The membrane filled with warmth. Not heat, but a saturating sensation of presence. Roran felt her fingers trail down his back, not suggestive, but mapping the shape of him, learning with each breath. He responded in kind, letting his hands explore the curve of her spine, the dip of her lower back, the strength in her shoulders. His fingers brushed one of her tattoos, it pulsed beneath his touch, and a vision surged into his mind, her, kneeling before an elder, receiving the mark with blood and fire. Every part of us remembers, she said. Even the ones we forget. He pressed his palm to her side. A scar thrummed there. You took this during an ambush. Yes. I was 18. The shard barely missed my lung. You didn't flinch. You were watching. He blinked. I was. You appeared in my mind. Not real, but your voice. Your courage. It reminded me not to die. Roran swallowed hard. He leaned into her. Not to kiss, just to exist there. Close. Shared. Her arms came around him. Theirs was not the embrace of lovers in lust, it was the embrace of two people who had stood alone too long. The membrane darkened slightly. Temperature climbed. Their skin began to spark where it met, subtle golden currents curling along shoulders, thighs, necks. Wherever emotion peaked, the light followed. "I want to learn you," she whispered. "Then learn." She kissed him, slow, reverent. A ceiling. He kissed back. The chamber answered, glowing in time with their pulses. The immersion lasted hours. They did not sleep. They explored each other's bodies, yes, but more than that, they traced the languages carved into skin, the stories behind every scar, the reasons they both held fear in their chests like extra ribs. When at last they lay beside one another, touching at knees, hips, foreheads, Roran whispered, "What does it mean if the bond completes here?" "It means you will be of my house. And I, of yours. We become each other's anchor. And if I say I'm not ready, then we do not seal the bond. And I return with love unclaimed, not betrayed." He looked at her. At her strength. At her softness. At the truth carved into her. "I'm not sure what I'm becoming," he said. "You're becoming seen." And in the quiet that followed, he chose not to answer. He just touched her face. Held it like something sacred. And she let him. When the chamber peeled back, the ship had changed again. Not in shape. In tone. Softer. Warmer. The path ahead led to a single, tall door framed by arching roots of glowing metal. "We're nearly there," she said. Trial 5. The final bond. He took her hand. "Then let's finish what we started." And they stepped through the arch together. The final bond. The chamber of the final bond felt unlike any other place Roran had ever stood. There was no platform, no glowing pedestal, no breath-reactive membrane. Just stillness. The walls shimmered like glass layered over water, and in their reflections, he didn't see just himself, he saw himself and Shirani, side by side, in countless possible futures. "This space shows truth," she said quietly, stepping beside him. "Not prophecy. Not illusion. Resonance potential. So, this is where we see what could be." "No," she replied. "This is where we choose." At the center of the room stood a low basin carved from translucent crystal, filled with slow-turning liquid light. It pulsed in rhythm with their joined heartbeats. Above it hovered a shard, not the one embedded in Roran's chest, but a new one, unbound. A living key. Shirani led him to the basin. "If we complete the bond, it becomes permanent," she said. "Politically. Spiritually. Biologically. What happens if we don't? My house loses face. Your world forfeits the alliance. And we both carry the fracture for the rest of our lives." He stared at the shard. "So that's the cost of saying no." "No," she said softly. "That's the cost of pretending we were never real." Roran turned to her. He had spent years alone. Quiet. Safe. Afraid to reach beyond what he could fix with tools or silence. Shirani had broken all of that. Not violently, but with presence. With patience. "You're not what I expected," he said. "Nor were you," she answered. "You are more." He looked at the shard. It pulsed once. "What if we're not enough? Then we grow together." He placed his hand over the shard. "What if we change? Then we change together." Shirani placed her hand beside his. The shard glowed brighter. "What if I love you?" he asked. Her fingers trembled. "Then I will finally breathe without ache." With a shared breath, they lowered the shard into the basin. Liquid light erupted silently, spiraling up their arms, across their skin, sinking into every scar, every heartbeat, every truth. Visions spilled into Roran's mind. A daughter with golden eyes and his crooked smile. His mother laughing as Shirani offered a gift wrapped in star lace. A war averted by the ripple effect of their union. Him, old and gray, watching her meditate beneath Earth's sunrise. Her, ancient and unchanged, still reaching for him. The basin quieted. The shard was gone. They looked at each other, and felt it. Completion. Not perfection. Not possession. Belonging. The doors opened. They stepped out into the ship's atrium, where a waiting council stood. Roran flinched, instinct tightening his jaw. On one side stood 3 members of the Netheran Senate, draped in layered robes, eyes glowing faintly behind ceremonial veils. On the other side, 2 humans, Ambassador Lillian Enright and General Tevos from the Earth Alliance Diplomatic Corps. Roran Vexley, Enright said, tone clipped. Do you understand the consequences of what you've just done? Yes, he said. You've bound yourself to an alien political structure. You are no longer a neutral Earth citizen. I'm not neutral anymore, he said. I chose her. Shirani stepped forward. And the House of Nether recognizes him not as a subject, but as a bonded equal. Tevos looked unimpressed. We'll have to reassess diplomatic channels. This wasn't approved. It didn't need to be, Roran said. You weren't there when she was bleeding under that shuttle. You didn't feel what I felt when she came back for me. This isn't politics. It's personal. The galaxy doesn't care about personal, Enright said. No, Shirani corrected. But the galaxy will. Later, in the upper canopy of the ship's starlight dome, Roran and Shirani stood together beneath the layered glow of space. She rested her head on his shoulder. You didn't flinch, she said. Thought about it. But you didn't. No, he said, smiling faintly. You came for me. I came for you. Seems fair. Not fair, she whispered. Right. They watched the stars shift above them, each one a future, each one a fire. So what do we do now? Roran asked. We live, she said. And if they come for us? She turned to him, eyes fierce and warm. Then we remind them, this bond was forged in flame. He laughed. Pulled her close. And far below the stars, the ship began to move, not away, not toward, but forward. Always forward. Stars beyond vows. It had been 128 Earth days since the final bond. Roran Vexley stood on the hull of the ship, magnetized boots clinging to the curve of its outer skin as the stars drifted around him in solemn, infinite grace. The ship no longer hovered only above Earth, it had become an envoy vessel, one of the first co-commanded by a bonded human and Netheran. He didn't miss his shed. Not really. Not the cracked concrete. Not the smell of overheated circuits. Not the heavy silence. He had found something bigger. Something alive. Inside, Shirani meditated at the Echorite core. Her presence radiated even when unseen. A gravitational force in his life, never smothering, only anchoring. He'd seen 1,000 new worlds since that moment they sealed the shard in the basin. But none had been as transformative as simply hearing her speak his name in quiet rooms. Ambassador Enright had resisted the bond. The Earth Alliance Council had nearly severed relations. The Netheran Senate had called emergency meetings. But then the miracles began. Joint missions prevented skirmishes. Shared technology fixed a failing atmospheric processor on Mars. A Netheran child and an Earth refugee formed the first interspecies school class in lunar orbit. And everywhere they went, the story followed. A human boy who saved a bleeding girl during war. A promise made under shattered skies. And a bond, unbreakable, unfaked, that rewrote the terms of peace. Roran entered the ship quietly. Shirani sat in the heart chamber, robes wrapped around her legs, face calm. Her eyes opened the moment he neared. I felt you thinking, she said. About us. About how strange this still feels. It should. We made something new. He crouched beside her. You ever worry it's too much? That we're carrying too much weight for one bond to bear? She smiled. We're not carrying it alone. He touched her fingers. I don't know what comes next. You never did. That's what I loved about you. He laughed. Loved. Past tense. She raised an eyebrow. My language has no past tense. Only the eternal. He kissed her fingers. Good. Because I'm not going anywhere. In the starlight dome, they stood again where their journey had turned from memory to destiny. The ship's lights dimmed. Its heartbeat synced to theirs. Beneath them, new coordinates spun across the navigator matrix, unclaimed space. Unexplored worlds. Questions unanswered. Where to next, she asked. He looked at her, then up at the stars. "Doesn't matter," he said. "As long as we go together." She nodded. The ship ignited. And beneath the quiet burn of stars, the oath they made long ago burned brighter than ever. The end.